When we use the word gangster sometimes, especially with politicians, we're exaggerating, we are, being hyperbolic. But in this case, we're actually talking about old-fashioned criminality, criminals, criminal families, involved in the drug trade, involved in racketeering, involved in violence. We really are talking about proper gangsters here.
We're talking about convicted heroin dealers. We're talking about, I mean, a former mayor, his brother was a convicted cannabis supplier or something. Arud Shah's brother is a convicted money launderer. One of the other lads there kidnapped a young man off the street, tortured him, videoed the torture. The police turned up and found blood splattered all over the walls. This is what we're talking about, and these people are directly involved in the political leadership and the political landscape of our town. There's no ambiguity here, Nick. This is the truth.
Let me put this question to you. Is this the leaders of Oldham Council using the gangsters as connections to get elected, to run their area? Or is this the gangsters have realised there's more money and more influence to be made by getting in their council?
Both. I think both, isn't it? I mean, the gangsters control votes. When I refer to them as cartels, I use the word cartels, yeah, is what I use. But the gangsters control votes. There's massive postal vote fraud in my town, like there is in many towns and cities across the country with demographics such as mine, high Muslim, high Pakistani, high Bangladeshi, where families control votes, and groups and clans control votes, high postal votes. And the postal vote system allows for that level of influence, which wouldn't be possible if you or I went into a polling station and when no one looking at you, and I put across what I wanted to, in secret. Yeah. And that's been taken away by postal votes and the way in which postal votes are exploited.
Well, hopefully that's the next thing the government will look at now they've looked at ID to vote. Now, Oldham is also synonymous with child sex exploitation. And one of the worst things I've read in a long time, I think it was last year, Amanda Chadderton, the former leader of Oldham Council, didn't want a public inquiry into that, but then also said, being raped as a child doesn't ruin your life. That they weren't her exact words. I can't remember her exact words, but that's roughly what she said. Being raped as a child doesn't ruin your life. It was absolute. I can't believe she got away with it. I can't believe she was at national press and forced to resign and kicked out the Labour Party.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, Nick, she didn't get away with it. We ran a crowd-funded campaign where we distributed leaflets in Royton South, which is the ward where she was up for re-election, and she lost. She's now no longer a councillor. So we can only win. And this is what I've been spearheading for the last 4 or 5 years now, Nick. We can only win by being brave enough to speak about these issues and deal with the allegations that we're racist and far-right extremists. A MP, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon, named me a racist and a far-right activist in Parliament using parliamentary privilege after Andy Burnham's assurance review revealed that children in my town were groomed and gang raped. That's white working class girls were groomed and gang raped by Pakistani men. Now, as in the context of Amanda Chadderton, she is just the latest in a series of Labour Party leaders in this town. They think they behave this way, Nick, because this is the way their predecessors have behaved and it's accepted. This is the norm for them. To cover up gang rape of children is the norm for them. The first of the politicians to do it was Jim McMahon when he was leader of the council. In a series of leaked emails, it confirmed, with the BBC, by the way, in collusion with the BBC, they agreed to cover up what was taking place for 2 reasons. One was community relations, and it's their words, community relations, not mine. And the second reason was because the BNP was standing in the town. Now, I'm a Democrat, Nick. Fundamentally, like you, I'm a Democrat. I believe in democracy. And I am opposed to the BNP, but they have every right to stand. And it is not, for a council or the police to cover up the grooming and gang rape of children because the far right might exploit it. Actually, what they should have done was dealt with it and had it dealt with in the mainstream. And if they dealt with it in the mainstream like they should have done, then the far right could never have exploited it and never would have exploited it, Nick. Now, it started with, it
never would exist. Yes.
It never would exist. I have been leading this campaign for 4 or 5 years in my town. I'm a brown man. I'm Bangladeshi heritage. I am a Muslim, like I've shared with you. And the reason the far right have had zero traction in Oldham is because it's been led by people like me who have said, this is wrong, right is right, and wrong is wrong, Nick. And the gang raping of little girls is wrong. And it can never be legitimized. It can never be excused.